Brilliant, okay. Hopefully this goes live to the correct stream and channel, which it does. Fantastic, okay. Hello everyone and welcome to the first in what will hopefully become a series of live streams where I will basically give a tutorial on how to mod start Battlefront 2. It is a luckily fairly simple game to mod, pretty easy to learn, but there is so much that I'm probably never going to be able to cover everything and every possible way of doing something when it comes to modding styles Battlefront 2. We'll just give a quick second for myself just to get orientated. I have just started this. I have announced in several discords that I'm doing this, so let's just let some users pile in real quick. So basically, the original plan was I was going to do a edited video series, but I just kind of kept making the first episode, hating it and deleting it. So I decided to go ahead and do it as a live stream series because it gives me an opportunity to answer any questions that people might have, show people how to do things that they might specifically be interested in. And it's just a better way for me to interact with people who want to learn how to mod Battlefront 2, rather than doing scripted videos, which are kind of exhausting to do. I might eventually come back and edit this down into a series of videos, but for now, let's just keep it as a simple live stream series that hopefully won't get derailed and divert into non-tutorial stuff. It probably will. Okay, so I closed the File Explorer window. Which I need because I create a folder where we're going to be working from. Which drive was it on? Ah, yes. Okay. So, first thing I want to make clear is if you're willing to learn how to mod style Battlefront 2 2005, you need to have some willingness to do independent learning. People on the Discord, which I will be linking in the chat in a moment, don't have all the answers and are not always available to help. And now that the GameToast modding forums are confirmed dead, there is not really a good visible source for modding Battlefront 2. There are archives of GameToast forums, but I don't think they're going to come up in Google results. So just please be aware that if you're looking to start modding now, you are coming at a very perilous time. You are going to have to pick up and learn stuff by yourself quite a lot. I'll obviously do what I can to help, but you may be looking at something that I'm not particularly well versed in. So to start off with, the thing that you're probably going to need most, let me get a notepad window open, that would be smart, is you're probably going to need this Discord link. This is a link to the GameToast Discord. Let me get a link that doesn't expire in 7 days. And yes, this is a link to the GameToast Discord. Here it is in chat for people who want to click it. It is a Discord that was created by the community who ran the main modding forum for Battlefront 2. There are a lot of prevalent modders in there. Pretty much everyone who's ever made a mod map that you've played is probably in this Discord. Just please be aware that most of the people who created your favorite mod maps are likely well into their adult years at this point and don't have time to answer questions. So just kind of be respectful. They're not going to instantly respond. They can take days if they respond at all. We are all sadly just very busy people now. It is just the pain of growing up. But this is pretty much where you're going to find all of the tools, everything that you could ever need to know. Like there's tons of support channels. Here is the Discord server itself. You can see you can ask for help in these I need help with channels. You can showcase your work in progress. You can release your mods in releases. There are tools. There are map contests, although this year has been kind of a break because I think just everyone's been too busy. And it's just generally a nice community. Just don't be surprised if it's not as active as you might expect. This is very much a community filled with very old people who pretty much just kind of sit here and sure safe as typing, so I'm going to take that off screen. Yeah, it's that is going to be an essential resource. Now that the forums are dead, you're going to want to be on this Discord. So, to start with, okay, sure as safe just made a good point. I want to make a point that if you're going to ask for help on the GameToast Discord publicly. Do not DM modders. I won't respond, and many other modders won't respond. Just to make that absolutely clear, if you do DM me asking for help, I will not respond. I don't respond to anyone anymore. Like, literally no one. Like, established Battlefront 2 modders DM me and I ignore them. Because I just don't answer questions. So the first thing you're going to want to do, let's just get started with the modding, is finding the mod tools. It surprisingly isn't as easy as it used to be, but there's this thing called Google. It is fantastic. So I would slap 2021 at the end, and it should come up with a ModDB page. Yeah, here we go. 2020. I was a year off. But this is the mod tools I'd recommend at the moment. There is no newer mod tools as far as I'm aware. I was, in preparation for this series, going to create a more modern version of the mod tools, but there's just so many variations on how people like to do things that I just thought that showing people how to build and update them and maintain their mod tools is going to be more essential than just uploading one that's going to work. So first thing you're going to want to do is download this. Let that download. The next thing you're going to want that I highly recommend is if you go look up Styles Battlefront 2 World Edit. This should come up with, it just links to Prismatic Flowers GitHub. But here you'll find a couple of tools. We're after World Edit. This is a fantastic tool that doesn't have a release thread on GitHub, so ignore me. You're going to want to join. You're going to want to join this Discord server. I'm so sorry, Sleepy, but you don't have releases. Unless I'm looking on the wrong repo. No, he just doesn't have releases on game. You can find them on GameToast, but to be honest, I would just join this other Discord server. This Discord server is ran by Sleep Killer. He's a very popular Battlefront 2 modder. It's not the wrong repo, he just doesn't have releases. It is in GameToast, but to be honest, it's just easier if you join Sleepy's Discord. Here you'll find releases for World Edit, and these World Edit releases are essentially an alternative level editor that I'll be using throughout the series. I will paste just a direct download link to everything right now in chat. I will update and maintain the... Oh, I don't have a link. 1 second, let me get the Mod Tools SDK link as well. Bam. Okay, so in chat at the moment you'll find 2 Discord servers. First one that I linked is GameToast. That is basically your help forum. Second link is for Sleep Killer's Discord, which you'll pretty much only use for shader patch updates and World Edit. There's a couple of other very useful tools that I'll also go over in the series later on. And then there's also a link to World Edit directly and the mod tools. Once you've downloaded the mod tools, which I need to find out where that's downloaded to, and sadly I closed my contained Google Chrome session like an idiot, so that's going to make my life so much easier. Yeah, so once you've downloaded your mod tools, you're going to want to open it up. I suggest having WinRAR installed. If you don't, then I don't know how you've been functioning as a human being. And you're going to want to extract it to a folder. and this is where a very important note comes in. The Battlefront 2 mod tools are incredibly dated. Zero Engine, the engine that Battlefront games run on, predates back to the mid to late 90s, and it has some DOS era side effects. One of the things it does not support is spaces in the folder path. So if you were to, let's say, let me just open another File Explorer window while it extracts. If you were to go to Documents and try and paste it here, it likely won't work because there will be a space in the folder path. The official recommendation is that you either paste it to the bare root of your C drive, so alongside program files and such, or an external drive. Mine, for example, I think is on the F drive. There it is. This is my actual Battlefront 2 mod tools. Just to keep it simple, extract it to the root of your hard drive or in a nested folder that includes no spaces. Spaces will stop the compiling process for Battlefront 2 working and will essentially make your mod tools non-functional. Yeah, pretty important note. I'm of course just extracting it to eDrive tutorials, and there's no spaces. That'll make it work. Any second. Oh yeah, I have not installed WorldEdit as part of the guide. How silly of me. Let's go download WorldEdit. Let's put WorldEdit in a tutorial. WorldEdit's not picky. You can extract this anywhere. In this case, I'm going to have it in a separate folder called WorldEdit. I'm probably not even going to use this install because I have my own, but you know, just for the sake of tutorial. WorldEdit doesn't auto-update as far as I'm aware, or at least I haven't noticed it. So yeah, that is probably good to keep separate just because of how often you'll be updating it. So, once you have installed the Battlefront 2 mod tools, you'll be looking at this folder. This is a magical folder filled with a lot of interesting things. First and foremost, there's a README file that I suggest you ignore. This is just basically a small guide to what you're seeing, but this is out of date and hasn't really been maintained. I know, shocking. The uninstall executable will uninstall your mod tools. There is a shortcut to SWBF Viewer. I'm really confused on why it's a shortcut, but we'll ignore that. I'd imagine that that's because... Yeah. What? Why was this included? Okay, just ignore that. There's a license agreement that basically says, you know, a bunch of stuff that everyone ignores. For example, about how LucasArts can kill your mod without warning, how you can't sell mods, but obviously a couple of us do, and a bunch of other random stuff that everyone, literally everyone, disobeys. So it's just nice that it's there. There's a Jedi side example, which I might use in a later tutorial. There's credits and useful links, which is a bit out of date now. GameToast.com is dead, so just ignore that. SWBF Gamers is live, so I suggest creating an account on that website. There are still some good guides, just beware that there's only probably 2 people on the entire site that are active anymore, and they're probably only active like once a month. Obviously, asking for mod support on ModDB is a death sentence, so don't try that. This Google site is a modding, essentially a copy of the pandemic documentation, and we will be referencing this later in the series. But as far as your first mod and getting acquainted with the mod tools, I don't suggest diving into this unless you're super nerdy and super technical, because you will not understand anything. Just for reference, GameToast is dead. It just tells you to join the Discord, which I have, of course, told you all to do. The last website on this list is Secret Society. If it will load for me. This is basically a archive from a former Pandemic developer that includes some kind of beta assets of Battlefront 2 and Battlefront 1, mostly Battlefront 1, and some documentation and patches. It's a very interesting site, but again, we're not really going to be here that much. I might come here for assets later in the series, but for now, for as far as your first mod is concerned, we're probably not going to need Secret Society just yet. And that's pretty much it. You can see the credits of everything that's included here. So yeah, I like how it just mentions the Game Toast Discord server. Doesn't link to it. Next up, we have the bf2_modtools exe. This is not a tool for creating mods. This is the debug executable for Battlefront 2. So when testing mods and trying to troubleshoot mods, this is the exe that you're going to use. And basically, in order to use this, you're going to need to go to your Battlefront 2 install. Mine's obviously a complete and total mess over years of abuse. And you just copy and paste it into your Styles Battlefront 2 Classic game data folder. This will not work on Classic Collection. This will only work on the actual versions of the game. And this needs to be copied. If you're running a digital version of the game, or you don't have a DVD, because you're a pirate, you're going to need the no DVD version of the Battlefront 2 mod tools executable. bf2modtools.exe is for people who have a disk version of the game. And yeah, you can see that there's a text file here explaining exactly what I've just said. This is just a debug console version of the game. You need to copy this into your game data folder to make sure that it can run. It doesn't work here, it's just included here as kind of an easy way to get it onto your system rather than linking it separately. Now, the rest of these folders are pretty moot, you can just ignore them. To create your first mod, we're finally getting to the good stuff. It's been a good 20 minutes. You need to go into the data folder, the _build folder, and open mod tools visual munge. This is a wonderful, wonderful, horrible tool that everyone hates. That is essentially the compiler for Battlefront 2 maps. Not everyone uses this. This is kind of where a lot of people branch off. I think Sleep Killer is experimenting with adding compiling functionality to World Edit. I know Marth has Zero Munge, which we'll get into probably later in the series. Some of us Chad people like to just use batch files. There's a lot of different ways to compile for Battlefront 2. But the reason why we need to use this is, at the moment, this is the only way to successfully create a brand new mod level. So in this case, we need to choose a 3-letter world name. This is going to become essentially your mod ID, and it is fairly essential that you try and maybe not have this conflict with other mods, because if you do, then it's going to cause problems. You don't have to keep what you set in here. So if you change your mind midway through, you can change that. Or if you just want to slap a temporary 3-letter world name, you can do that. I'll cover that later in the series. There is so much that I'm going to cover later in the series. I am currently trying to think of a good world name to demonstrate. I'm going to put LOM. I feel inspired to put LOM. We're not going to keep the iconic name of Snazzy Mod World. We're going to instead call this Sure is Safe Loves Dick. Actually, no, that's the description. That's inappropriate to have as the world name. We're just going to put tutorial, series, level. Just keep it nice and boring. And then we're going to mark each game mode because that'll allow me to cover it. You can make a space map from here. I will probably do a separate stream on that. Space maps, while all the fundamentals are the same, it's just a bit more to manage. So let's just start with the basic conquest. So if you give this a few seconds to run, bam, done. This is, and now if you come back to the Battlefront 2 mod tools folder, you will see you'll have data_lom. I think I might be going a bit too fast for anyone who's actually trying to watch this to learn, but hey ho, that's just a cost. There's so much to cover. I haven't even mentioned that there's a documentation folder here, but that's because it's all on that website, that Google site I showed earlier. So within data_lom, you'll now find another _build, and this is where this is another version of Visual Munge. If you open this version, you can see that rather than the top mod create new world menu being active, the Munge layer is active. And I'll kind of explain what all this is later in the series. Well, actually no, later in this stream I'll explain that. Not later in the series, because you're going to want to play your first level pretty soon. So, we now have a mod folder. What the fuck is this journal.dat file? What is this? This is new. I've not seen this before. Okay, ignoring that. There is... Within these folders can contain everything you need for a mod. For example, all of Battlefront 3 Legacy comes from its data folder. This is essentially a clone of the repository that Battlefront 2's original developers, Pandemic, used to store and manage the game's content. So you have the ADME folder. This is the script that adds your mod map to the game. I'll explain this script more in detail later in the series. I think for now you can just leave it alone once you've created your level. There's quite a lot you can do with this script, and I think it's just good to tackle it all in one go. There's an animations folder that, trust me, you're not going to want to mess with right now. There's a common folder. This has a lot of game essential files, and for now I suggest maybe keeping it well enough alone, just for your like first few hours of modding. I think it's good to get acquainted with the world editor before we start going into scripting. There's the sides folder. This will be for custom sides, so different custom units and Jedi. This will be its own segment of the series. There's a lot you can do with this, and I think again it's good that we cover this on its own. And the sound, which will be a bitch and will likely be the thing that I will put off as much as I can, because sound is every Battlefront 2 modder's worst nightmare. If you ask any Battlefront 2 modder what the worst aspect of modding is, they will say it will be sound. And then there is worlds. Worlds is your world files. At the moment, you can see it's not really full. It's quite boring. And we're going to populate this with assets in a minute. And I'm going to show you how to use World Edit. So, obviously, to use World Edit, step one is to open it. It'll open like this. You select Open Data Folder, and you will go to which is there it is. You will go to your freshly created data folder for your mod, and you'll just open specifically this data folder, and World Edit will configure itself so that you can open your world. And when you open your world, at the moment, obviously I just have a flat plane and a skybox. There isn't really much going on here. You can see that you get a couple of command posts. I think I'm going to be surprised. There is actually a light, so that is actually going to defeat the. Oh my! I haven't actually looked at the 2020 mod tools. This has completely defeated what I was going to say. If you're not using the 2020 mod tools, your world won't come with a light. Please place a light immediately. It's annoyed me that this is here, because that was going to be like my big thing, is never post a screenshot of a test level without a light source. But yeah, there's already one here. So I'm going to turn to you guys now. Out of the original Battlefront 2 maps, and only the Battlefront 2 maps, I would like you to choose a planet. Let me just make sure that it is just the... Yeah. Out of just the core Battlefront 2 maps, please choose a planet. This planet is just going to be what I demonstrate the test level with. There was a question earlier in the stream about, is there a size limit to the map? Yeah, there is. There's always a size limit to everything, but Battlefront 2 size limit is huge. Right, so Maxwell has said Hoth. We're going to go with Hoth because that is actually a pretty good starting point. So, in this Battlefront 2 mod tools folder, there is a folder I haven't acknowledged other than all of these, but that's fine. These aren't essential. There is assets. This is essentially the pandemic supplied assets for modding. So you'll find here just general source, basically source files for Battlefront 2. Nothing really like that interesting, just stuff you can reference and you can take from, or if you want to create a replacement level or a replacement script, this is where you would probably sample it from. In our case, we're going into worlds and then hot for Hoth, and I can explain how a level structure works. So as you can see in the Hoth folder, we have 4 folders, while in ours we only have 1. That is because essentially our map is empty, it has no content. In each of these folders, they store particular files. In effects, these are particle effects, things like footprints, smoke effects, explosions. These will all be stored in effects. MSH stands for mesh. This is where you'll find all the textures and models for the map. If you see a PC folder within a mesh folder, that is something I'm going to get into later in the series. You can just ignore it for now, act if it's not there. It will become important when we get to a certain episode of this series, but for now it's not that important. There is an ODF folder. The ODF stands for Object Data File. This is basically the properties file that assigns a model behaviors and such. So if you want an object to be a building or a prop, an object data file needs to be created to tell the game it's an object or a prop. This is basically the instructions for the game on how things need to be built, and it just references the models and textures that are in mesh. World 1 obviously is the world files for Hoth. So what we're going to do is we're going to just copy and paste the Hoth world files over into our fantastic little mod folder. Yes. So if we come back to data lom, worlds, lom, we're going to copy these 3 folders because they include all of the object data, mesh files, and particle effects for Hoth. And then there's a couple other things we're going to grab as well. We're going to grab the PC. We're just going to take a look in the PC folder. If you see a TGA file, that's a target image file. These are textures. .msh, as I said, are mesh files, and .option files are kind of an additional property. We're going to want all of these because we want all of the models and textures from Hoth. Some models and textures are kept in World 1. These will be things like terrain and skies. So we want them. And you can see there's some more textures here for the terrain. We want that. There's a lot of other files here. Don't worry, I will get around to them later in the series on what each of these files do. We're just interested right now in the textures and models, so just anything with mesh or TGA we want, and then we're going to break down how to place things and kind of how to build your first level. But obviously first, okay, yeah, that's all the textures and models from Hoth copied over. So because I went over that lightning quick, let's just cover. ODF is object data file. So this tells the game what an object, how an object behaves. MSH is mesh. TGA is target image. I mean, it is BF3s as well. It's not incorrect there, but and option equals additional parameter. That's a breakdown of the folders. Hang on, effects equals particle effects. I'm just going to say that. So yeah, that's a breakdown of everything that I've just tried to explain very quickly as I copied everything over. Once you have everything copied over, your level will begin to work. If I am going too quickly and you want me to go over something again, just please let me know in chat. Or if you're watching this afterwards, just let me know in the comments. So we are looking at world edit now. Controls are pretty simple. WAS and D to move the camera. Hold right click to just obviously handle the direction of the camera. Don't worry about anything here. Show and select. If you select show, this will show certain things. For example, light sources. Selecting select allows you to select them. Deselecting select allows you to not. And you can also show and hide layers. Layers are very helpful. I'm actually going to demonstrate how to do that now because I want you guys to have the best experience modding, and I think organization is essential to that. So under file, you have the usual stuff. You can load a level, save a level, close a level, and you can save entity groups. This is basically prefabs if you've used another level editor like Hammer. You then have edit, undo, redo, delete, cut, copy, paste. You know, these are the usual keybinds. View, this will give you a list of the hotkeys somewhere. It's supposed to give you a list of the hotkeys. It's broken. Sleep killer, please fix. There's one for the camera controls. This is how you can you can change the camera speed, the sensitivity of the camera. You can change the view settings of the camera, the position of the camera, and you can copy the camera shot. This is something I will cover in the series soon, but essentially this is how you create the cameras in the background of the spawn menu and spectator mode cameras and such. That's how you get the camera values. Global lights editor is basically what will be the main ambient light source for your map. It's already set up the sun that's already here. That annoys me that's already here, but I will cover that when we do lighting. Layers editor allows you to create layers. So in this case, we want to create a layer called, I don't know, what have we got? We've got Hoth props. Let's do build. Let's do echo base. I suggest don't go too crazy with layers, but it is useful to have them on separate layers. I'm just game mode editor is a bit deceptive in its naming. This refers to groups of layers. So, for example, Hoth on Battlefront 2, when you load Hoth hunt mode, it loads all of those props and objects in the back area of Echo Base. That uses this game mode editing system where essentially you can basically decide what layers are active depending on game mode. There's a scripting side of this, so I'm not going to show you this right now or cover this in today's live stream, but whenever I do the next episode and I begin to do scripting stuff, I'll showcase this a bit more. My biggest suggestion is, I know I might be going a little fast, just play around with stuff. Trust me, you're likely to break something, but it can't be something that can't be fixed. So world requirements editor, this is another thing that's going to be covered probably later on when we do more scripting side of things and more complicated things that require, editing the world files that aren't the actual level itself, so level config files. That's when I'm probably going to cover this. This is basically the file that tells the compiler what your level actually contains, and it also stores a lot of important files for your level, so I don't suggest messing with this right now. There's a couple other things here. World Explorer, this is basically, if you've used Zero Editor, this is the menu that's at the bottom. This tells you everything that you've placed within the level. It's obviously very helpful if you need to find a specific prop. World Stats basically tells you what is in your world at the moment. In this case, we have 23 objects and a light. Sorry, I just really need a drink. It is very warm in here and I haven't stopped talking. There's obviously, this calculates everything that's in your level. It's very useful for memory pools, but we're not covering that right now. If you're wondering what all these other things are, like regions, sectors, portals, I'm not covering them at the moment because they're not relevant to basically what I want to show you right now is how to build your first level. And while all of that is interesting, I see that as more of a part 2 kind of deal. Part 1, I just need to get you placing objects, basically. Familiarizing yourself with just general placement and thinking about what kind of map you want to make. Measurement tool, this is kind of something that, to be honest, isn't really that useful, but essentially it's just an on-screen representation of, you can just create rulers basically if you want like a really exact measurement of your map. Render environment map, that's something that's very material focused. Don't worry about it. I will cover that later on in the series. It's a very specific and niche tool. These are a bunch of terrain editing things that I'm going to go into in a minute. There's a create. Don't worry about the animation tab just yet. In settings, you can change the hotkeys within the level editor. Or learn about them because the other menu, it doesn't work. And there's also just a general settings editor where you can configure things like your preferred text editor and some other visual things if there's issues with color blindness and such. Okay, so on the create menu, you have all of the options for everything you could possibly want to create. So you can see you can access prefabs if you created them, and then there's a couple of other things. Right now we just want to look at object. When you open the object editor, you'll be greeted by this menu. This looks pretty scary, but it's mostly just, do you want to place that cursor, which will place an object at your cursor. You can kind of see a little question marks there at the moment. Manual is if you want to place like using just these position data. You've got rotation settings, grid alignment, whether you want to snap it to the grid or snap it to another object, and you can choose which layer it is on. In this case, we're going to go with Echo Base. There is one more thing, that object class browser. This is a visual aid to allow you to see what is actually saved within your Battlefront 2 folder. So this will show you all of the objects that exist within your data folder. Since we copied all those Hoth items over, obviously we've got all the Hoth items here. Within here, you can find the objects you want to place. So in our case, I want to place a Millennium Falcon. There it is. We've placed the Millennium Falcon. Let's place some crates around it. Let's place a health and ammo droid right next to it as well. Weapon recharge. Don't worry about vehicle spawns, I'll show you how to use that. Just be aware that this shows you every object, including gameplay objects that might not work. But yeah, essentially this allows you to drag and drop. This is if you like, this is how you would traditionally do it if you want more granularity, like you can set a team of the object. But for now, just drag and drop. I think it's probably the easiest way to get you guys started on modding. But obviously, some of the objects are a bit more complicated to place, such as the actual Echo Base objects. You can see every time you create a new object, it'll open this new object window. Echo Base is a bit more complicated because it needs to line up perfectly. Don't worry about it, because you can just click this object and tell it to You can see that you can get all the options with this. You can ground it to the terrain. You can basically align it, but one of the options you can match transform, and this will click it into place with the echo base. So you can see that we now have a little bit of a functional echo base there. Let's place a shield generator, I don't know, there. There is another part of echo base. Where's the third part? Where's the third part? I know there's a third part. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, there it is. So let's take the object we placed earlier. You get a little gizmo. This is where it's like essential for you just to kind of play around. This is kind of what I'm trying to show you, like just the basics for getting the props placed, because I feel like you will learn more if you just start to mess with things. I'm just doing it very quickly, but there are a lot of objects, and I suggest just kind of browsing through them all. I'm getting a very rough little echo base going at the moment. There is somewhere, there are the legs for the, where are the legs? Where are the legs? There it is, landing gear. Why is it in the floor? Oh, it's offset. Wonderful. Some objects are kind of awkward to place. Just kind of, you're going to have to live with it, I'm afraid. Oh, so close. Let's bring it down a little. And then we're just going to, some objects, if you ever get a scenario where the cursor's offset like this, you can see you can get the move selection box. Just change it to object B box center, and this will center it. That's a later episode. I'm not covering that right now. That is on the agenda, but it's not right now. But if you select object B box center, it will center the movement gizmo to the center of the bounding box of the object, which is basically how the edges of what the editor considers to be the object. So 9 times out of 10, this will center it to the object pretty much exactly how you'd want it, and makes it a lot easier to move these objects around. Okay. There is a bit of a problem that I have not mentioned yet with this echo base that I've only, to be honest, now just noticed. I'm hoping that it's oh no, terrain cutters don't show up. Okay, that's fine. So now that we have like a little echo base going, let's just quickly seal that up. So we have a little echo base. You can continue to play around. You can place more props. For now, don't worry about vehicle spawns or turrets. Actually, no, we can do turrets. With turrets, you can just place them, and they'll work. Job done. So right now we have a little echo base. The ridiculous Z fighting I'm about to fix. So our echo base, doesn't exactly seem very echo basey at the moment. It's quite exposed. You can see the grass is fighting with the terrain. So we're going to need to fix that. In fact, we're going to need to fix a couple things with the terrain. The terrain height editor. This is the tools that you require to basically play with the terrain. For example, if I wanted to put a giant pit to hell, I would set the brush mode to lower, set it to cone, and put the rate to 10. And then I just, hold this until it keeps going down and we reach reach hell. My suggestion is, if you're going to be working with smooth hills, is personally to use the bell option. And then what we're going to do right now is we're literally just going to, make a hill. That's it. We're going to make a hill. Terrain editing is kind of something that you're probably going to get very frustrated with. It is grid-based. It is very difficult to learn how to make terrain look good in Battlefront 2. It does take a lot of time, and you do have to be very patient. It is not something you can rush. If you rush it, it will look bad. But we're just going to keep... Oh, fuck. You can kind of see how bad the terrain editing situation is right now. Yeah, it's very difficult to get right. It is very stressful. It is just something you are going to have to learn to work with. Okay, I have a solution to this problem. So, as I said, the terrain is a grid. If you click Show Terrain Grid, you can see the grid. My Echo Base is just in a bad spot where it's never going to look right, so we're just going to select everything and we're just going to move it just so that it's in a pretty good spot when it comes to the terrain. I think there should do it. We'll see how that is. I should now be able to... this isn't always possible, but that's... in this case it is, so just bear that in mind when editing the terrain. In fact, it's not even in that much better of a position, so you do just kind of have to bite the bullet sometimes. Modding the terrain is by far the worst thing in this game. It is absolutely terrible, honestly. Absolutely terrible. This god-awful... I'm one of the better people, or at least I like to think I'm one of the better people when it comes to terrain editing. It just isn't a pleasant process. The game just doesn't really cooperate with you. There's nothing you can do about it. Blend is a tool that essentially, it blends the terrain. It kind of merges it at a... It can be undesired, but it does smooth out the terrain by essentially making it all flat. It kind of... If you do it long enough, it turns flat. I'm trying to think of the exact terminology, but it's very late and I'm very tired. So I'm just trying to zoom through what I can right now. So we have this little hill that's covering our Echo Base. That's the gist of terrain editing. We're going to move the Echo Base a little bit more in a minute due to the fact that it's just not in a good spot right now. We're going to just hide the texture stretching a bit. There's probably going to be a little bit of a seam, but that's fine. Nothing is ever seamless. I know this looks easy, but trust me, Battlefront 2 modding, this is the fun and easy bit. When it comes to doing what I like to do in Battlefront 2 modding, it's just not this easy and it's not this fun. I want to just pull this forward a bit so that the terrain cutter kills everything. Let me guess, that's just undone everything I've done. This is kind of like what I mean. Battlefront 2 just sometimes is weird. I don't know how Echo Base works on Hoth, to be fair. I'm not someone who's actually made a Hoth map yet, or at least not with the pandemic assets. So essentially, you can see where the terrain is turning invisible. That is because there is a terrain cutter here It's not visible in World Edit for some reason. But essentially there's a invisible object that is killing the terrain tiles when they enter its region, and for some reason it's not actually at the entrance of Echo Base like I thought it would be, which is a pain. Let's see if I can negotiate my way around this. If you've ever watched a Battlefront 3 Legacy dev stream, you've probably seen me do terrain editing, and yeah, there we go. That's the best I can do. There is a seam, which sucks ass, but I'm not going to bother fixing that, to be honest. Yeah, so that's the gist of terrain height editing. Just play around with these settings in the height editor. You can literally just make hills. It's pretty fun. It does take a lot to get it all correct. Texture editing is what we're going to do next. We're going to first start by replacing all of the textures with what we want. If we go to terrain tech. Oh yeah, the other terrain settings when it comes to importing, don't worry about this. We're not going to get around to that for a while. These are all very complicated things. Resizing the terrain, this will allow you to rescale it like an image, as it says, so you can make the terrain bigger or smaller. Cropping the terrain, same as think of the terrain like a 2D image, it will crop the edges in, and extending it will just extend it like you would a canvas. Flooring the terrain lowers the terrain to the lowest point possible. Don't worry about this setting, you're not going to use it. This is pretty much something that I requested for Legacy. Baking terrain lighting is something we'll get into later in the series, and then you got water and the foliage editor, both of which are something that you're probably not going to want to play with right now because I'm going to have to cover this more. The sound and music tutorial, as I said earlier in the stream, will be covered a lot later on, just due to how every Battlefront 2's bugbear, Battlefront 2 models bugbear is the damn sound and music. Okay, so I actually am breaking right now. Okay, so we're going to change the name of the terrain. We saw that we copied hot underscore main. Damn, what was the texture called? Okay, so earlier in the stream we copied over a bunch of Hoth textures here. It's just called Hoth, okay. So we're going to add Hoth main 1. Here we have another Hoth underscore main 2. Here we have Hoth underscore main 3. I would help if it actually worked on an enter. Just bear with me 1 second while I fix this. And then we're going to do Hoth underscore main underscore 4. So now we have pretty much converted our little test level into a little Hoth map. As I alluded to earlier in the stream, independent learning is probably your best way to learn how to mod this game. My recommendation is to take away everything I've shown you here today and just kind of play around with the level editor and try your best to create like just a little level like we have here that you can experiment on. If you want to go ahead and start like expanding it, you can. I will cover foliage and other such things in a later episode, so don't worry about like more complicated things for now. Your class assignment is just to get something that works in game. Just go ham. Just place everything you want, see what works, what doesn't work. You see, we can get a trench here. Cute little Hoth level. And yeah. Now, this is a pretty good start to a level. I can't wait to like kind of expand off this to show you every like feature and trick there is, and I think it's good to just show you what the end result of this has been. If you have any questions or want me to show something off real quick, feel free to cook up a good question. But to compile your map to test it in game, you just open this tool. The first time you open this, it will ask you to set your Battlefront 2 installation. All you have to do is hit Munge, and this will compile your level. There's a lot more to this. I will elaborate on that later in the series. I'm probably going to keep this quite short and maybe just go over, get to a point where I show this, maybe do questions at the end, and then maybe lay out a plan for what the next episode is going to showcase. Just, I'm hoping to try. Oh, hello. Okay, so this is a Munge log. This is the log from munging. Warnings like this can just be ignored. These errors are a problem. You're going to see this a lot when you copy textures from the Battlefront 2 levels. Providing this texture that it's having an error with isn't in use, it's fine. My recommendation to resolve this error permanently is just to go delete the texture. So that was HothX, which is in PC. Let's just delete that and munge it. So an important detail, and the reason that error came up, textures for Battlefront 2 need to be by the power of 2. So it needs to be a number that is to the power of 2, so 2 by 2, 4 by 4, 8 by 8, 16 by 16, 32 by 32, 64 by 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048, 4096, etc., etc. It doesn't have to be a square, so you can have a 512 by 1024 image, but every image needs to be to the power of 2. Sorry, every image value has to be to the power of 2. That's what created that error we just saw. So normally, once you hit Munge, that's it. It's compiled. It's ready to go and test in game. In my case, my mod tools are a little bit different due to working on legacy. So just bear with me 1 second. I need to manually copy the mod over. You won't have to do this. Where is my LOM folder? My beloved LOM folder. There it is. Okay, so what you should see in the end is you should see your mod folder successfully compiled here in the add-on folder. And inside that you can see you have an adme script and you have your level file. Make sure that this has file size and that everything that you see here is present, and then you're good to start debugging it in the game. So as I mentioned before, the BF2 mod tools node DVD, we can now use this because we need to go debug our mod. So we're going to go load that up. Bear with me 1 moment. I need to make sure OBS records Battlefront 2 because I have it set to capture my other screen at the moment. 1 second. Ba-da-ba-bam. OBS, please work with me. It's not wanting to work with me. Fucking god damn it. Screw it. Okay. Bam. Bam. Okay. Thank you. Pain in the ass. The debug executable is just Battlefront 2 pretty much. There's nothing really different about it. When you're in the menus, you can't use multiplayer, so don't stress about that too much. What did we call our level? I called it tutorial. Here we go, tutorial series level, and we can load that up in Conquest, and it will load. And you can see that our level now works. So unintentional, But the shield generator I placed, I forgot, is actually a command post object. Which is interesting that it's being captured. Oh, it comes built in with a command post. That's interesting. I didn't actually realise that. I've never used Hoth assets before. So we've unintentionally placed a command post. I didn't want to do this. How did they capture it? How was this captured? I'm confused. There's no capture region, so how did they Okay, something weird is happening with that shield generator. Just be aware of it. I will cover command posts, but you can see that our map works. We're able to load into it. No, there's something. There's a reason why that captured. It's scripting related. It's fine. But you can see all the props we placed to here, they all work, except the turrets. That's a scripting related thing. I will go into that in the next episode probably. But you can see our health and ammo droid are here, our crates are here, and our Millennium Falcon is here. And that is the very, very basics of modding Battlefront 2. Yeah. That is how you create your first level in Battlefront 2. That's only taken me an hour. My suggestion is, if you are starting off with modding Battlefront 2, is to just spend the first few hours just messing with the editor with what I've shown you, placing objects, messing with the terrain, build a little level, plan out what you want to do. Nothing too complex, keep it fairly simple. Nothing more complex or extreme than you see in the first two Battlefront games basic. And yeah, you should be ready to follow along with episode 2 when I release that, hopefully by the end of this weekend. I'll be covering things like vehicle spawns, command posts, and just like general more level focused stuff, where we're going to turn that little shitty Hoth map I've made into something a bit more exciting. But yeah, my suggestion at the moment for now is to take what you can build and just keep building on it. So in my case, I would like expand out, and I would sorry, I very instinctively do that because I don't usually use the object class browser. I would instinctively start to build out and maybe think about putting a bunker, like maybe put an entrance over here. Again, swap the bounding box if an object isn't behaving properly. Swap the bounding box and it will behave a lot better. But I might put a tunnel entrance here. I might think about putting a cave here. Just kind of a loose plot out of what I want to do. And then maybe put a bunker here, and then I can use these tunnels to stitch it all together. There is a feature within WorldEdit to snap objects together. Very useful for tunnels and walls. I don't know the keybind off by heart, so I might have to, discuss that later on. But I might build a little echo base off camera, do some mining off camera, just build a little map, and yeah, we can come back hopefully on Sunday and continue this, and we can go into how to properly add turrets, how to properly add command posts, and we can turn this little dev level into a proper populated level with vehicles, additional command posts. If you are desperate to get going and you are using WorldEdit, you can just create a com building control zone object. And if I'm not mistaken, providing that your command post is in a well open area and you just place it, World Edit will automatically create everything you need for it to work. This is very helpful. It's very, very helpful. Just beware that if you place it in a cramped space, this might not work properly. If you're using custom command post models, I think it plays up as well. But you can see here, I just placed it, and this command post is ready to go. This will mostly work in game. It won't. This isn't plugged into the Conquest game mode, so it won't work. Oh yeah. Make sure to give the command post a name. I forgot to do that, so this command post won't actually work. But if you were to create an object, call it CP5 because there's already 4 on the map, and you were to place it, this command post is good to go and will work. You can spawn at it, you can capture it, it just won't count towards victory. I'll be covering that in the next episode, where I'll be covering more scripting focused things and kind of how to pretty up your map. Those are the 2 things I want to cover next: how to make your map function and how to make it pretty. For now, I'm pretty sure I've covered most of the bare essentials of using the level editor and how to get assets into your level. Spawn paths are created automatically. These are these little green tabs. I'll be covering that more in the next episode, because I obviously need to break down exactly how command posts work. I just kind of wanted to, show you that you can place them at the moment if you want to. And yeah, my suggestion is take what I've shown you so far, play around with World Edit, place objects, kind of plan out whatever map you want to create, and on the next episode I'll show you how to do sky effects, particle effects on your map like snow and rain, water effects, foliage, and functionality things like how to link command post to the game mode, how to properly load turrets, load vehicles. There's a lot to cover. I just kind of bit pushed for time at the moment since it's coming up to midnight and I'm very tired after a week of work. But my suggestion is, yeah, just play around. If you have any questions about anything I've shown you, feel free to take it to the GameToast Discord. Again, do not DM me on Discord, I will not respond. Do not go around DMing other modders on Discord unless they consent to you doing so, because they don't really like it. Just be very respectful of their time and just do it publicly on the Discord. It's the GameToast Discord for those of you who have joined the stream since then. And you can ask for help in these channels. My suggestion is just using the mapping channel, because this is where what you're hopefully going to be doing based on what I've shown you today. Yeah, there's a lot to it. There will be more tutorials, and yeah, there's been a lot to unpack. My plan with this is to kind of split up the live stream I did to maybe make an edited down version that's a bit more comprehensive, and I can fill in any holes or issues that I have with the initial live stream. I'm just wondering, has anyone who is currently watching, has anyone been following along with this? Or does anyone have any general questions they want me to elaborate on just about basic mapping basics for Battlefront 2? Or does anyone want the links that I posted earlier in the stream? Yeah, yeah, Calais, yes, I did. When you place a command post, make sure that you insert name, otherwise it won't function, because everything scripting linked needs to be a name. And this applies the name to everything, including the spawn paths and regions. So you can see here, that's now called CP6, that's called CP6 spawn. It's very important that we do that. Just wondering if anyone has any questions while I hydrate desperately. Doesn't really look like it. Interesting. This series, as far as it wants to go, I do want to show off how to do pretty much all of the bare essentials for Battlefront 2 modding, and I also want to showcase some more complex things that aren't available in video tutorial form, or even image tutorial form, or certain things that don't have a tutorial at all. If you're interested in console modding, I will be covering console mods. I will be covering error mods, side mods, sound mods, replacement mods. A lot of really niche mapping things, how to make space to ground maps, how to make legacy compatible maps, and other error mod compatible maps. There's a lot to break down, there's a lot of interesting things. I'll definitely be delving into the Game Toast archives to try and dig up things there to make tutorials on so that they're not lost. There's a lot to cover. There's 20 years of modding history. But I think I've given you the absolute bare minimum essential basics to just genuinely having fun with the editor for the first few hours of your modding, your hopefully lengthy time modding. We're going to look at more complex stuff. Basically, the takeaway from this is to follow everything I did to get the mod tools set up and installed, copy some assets into your world folder, use world edit to make a level, and then we'll pick up next time and we'll make that level more playable, better, and more interesting. I'm not really getting any questions from anyone, so I think I'm going to wrap it up. If you're watching this after the fact, and because I know a lot of people who are going to be following along with this tutorial are likely watching it after the fact, please just leave a comment and I'll get back to that you as soon as I possibly can. And yeah, I'm gonna go call it a night. Bye.